But look, as you said, data is evolving a lot and
Yeah,
data is massively important. We saw it's used for ads to target ads. It's used
yeah,
to understand behavior in order to, because now we live in an attention economy, right?
that's it. Yeah,
So we talk about the algorithm, but what is the algorithm? It's they take data in order for you to keep your attention and
yeah,
keep you on the most. And now it's going to change even more with AI
yeah.
because now they're going to use
You're right.
AI, right, to implement it in the algorithm. And in real time, it's going to think and know what is going to keep you more on the site, right?
Yeah,
So, how do you think AI is going to change the game? And it's definitely going to, I think, have a big impact on data unions and whatever you're working on.
massively. Like to begin with, like a lot of AI as we recognize it today, I think it's a lot better to call it machine learning at this rate. Like AI is such a loaded term. Artificial intelligence kind of has these connotations that the machines are thinking for themselves and things like that. But like large language models are a huge breakthrough in machine learning. And machine learning only in the last kind of 15 years, basically since social media, has been using neural networks. Before that, like in the 80s, I think you had like Deep Blue, which was the first chess kind of algorithm or
Right.
chess AI thing to beat a pro human chess player. And it's really interesting. They programmed that totally different. Like in the 80s, they were using actual kind of hard coding logic to think how would the game of chess be played. And they had a lot of success in that in the game of chess, where it's like a very fixed game. So chess is what's called like a kind learning environment. The rules are set. You can redo once you fail, and you get instant feedback, like you know what's going well and not. Okay, when you lose the game. Okay, so you can repeat that and train a logic to just get better and better and better. Um, and that obviously got better than humans. But what's really interesting is that after Kasparov, like the chess champion at that time, lost to Deep Blue, they then formed what's called like a cyborg league, where they said, right, Kasparov was said, I'm going to now team up with Deep Blue and I challenge any other pro chess, I guess he had an ego, like any other pro chess player to find whatever machine learning or AI, whatever that they want to team up with, and we'll play each other. Okay, so I'll have an AI, I'll be Kasparov, and you guys can try and fight us. And they basically lost to an amateur chess player who I think he was like a British naval engineer. He had a young computer science or statistics student with them and like not a very sophisticated machine learning program. And what that shows is that just the statistical analysis and having like a bit of machine learning kind of opens up the doors to creativity. Okay, and it showed that as well. Chess before AI, it really was a game of like how well drilled these chess players were. They were just very familiar with the game. And once you take away that barrier to entry and you allow just a kind of basic statistics student and a computer to run some models, actually a very amateur strategist, like a strategy guy from the Navy, could beat Kasparov, which is kind of crazy. What's changed recently is that they've started to look at neural networks, which is actually building an an AI model which is modeled after the brain, so it can kind of deal with different circumstances, unkind learning environments, situations where the next image you look at might be different to the one before. Okay, it's not going to be a totally fixed structure like in chess, and you may have to like give a result the first time you see it. You can't retake the game. And so they started to build up neural networks. The trouble is, for most of they've kind of been theoretically in existence since the 50s, I believe, but they never consider using them because they take so much data. And so what happened with social media was they started looking at neural networks in order to allocate kind of content and these algorithms and things because they had just a ton of data. So machine learning in that sense has kind of been around for a long time. It was only since I think 2017 or something that like they called it the transformer, which is a big. I don't understand it, totally. But it was a big breakthrough in large language models, and that's what ChatGPT is now currently built on. Uh, these AI models, in some respects, they're only as good as their last update. In some respects, so this is why it's actually quite. I mean, it was quite overpriced, wasn't it? But Elon Musk buying X, he's kind of buying like this very dynamic, constantly updating database, which is quite a good play to build an AI model on. Likewise,
And you
Tesla's,
release his own AI.
yeah, like Teslas, like these guys, that it's constantly updating data. They can take all the sensors from the Tesla and keep that AI model like relevant. The parallel here is kind of with human learning. If you look at the immense amount of time and energy and effort it takes to teach a child to read, it's a lot of effort for not much payoff. Okay. And then you look at like how much we studied for our GCSEs, and it's like as soon as you take them, it's totally redundant. And then you need to do your A levels or BTech or whatever in order to get to university. And then even let's say if you do law at university, you become a graduate, great. You just got into the door of a law school. You now need to qualify as a lawyer, and then you get your bar, or, whatever. And you may still not be totally trusted to be client facing. You now need like supervising from a more experienced partner at the firm or something like that. Okay, AIs are kind of the same. Like billions have been, or LLMs, you should say, like, or we should say, billions have been invested in training them and making them relevant. But the data needed to, let's say, incorporate them into the workplace, just like incorporating that lawyer into the workplace. If that lawyer like misbehaves in front of a client, they're useless. If they misbehave or say the wrong thing in court, they're useless. And you can't blame the junior lawyer for that. It will be the partner that gets in trouble because the partner has all the accountability. They're training these, new people, these new graduates. Companies have like insurance policies where they are massively accountable for the work they do, a lot of them. So if you get an LLM, as many billions of like data points and dollars and work hours and whatever has been put into making them this sophisticated, it will still take like some proportionally, relatively, very, very valuable human data inputs to bring them into the workplace.
Yeah.
And so how that changes the value of data is it's massive. Like people in, let's say, the knowledge economy, like accountancy or law or, the medicine, whatever professions, whether it's private or public, they have an unbelievable amount of bargaining power. Okay. So considering how people are saying this may really disrupt the economy and it may totally change the way these knowledge economies and markets work, they may start to think, if we organized ourselves a bit here, I may just ask for a share of the output of this LLM for every, let's say, correction or data point I give it. And that may not be worth that much in a year, but in like 10 years' time, when they've stopped hiring graduates altogether because it's all run on that AI program, you may be able to like retire off those shares, and then that's another asset that the government can go on to tax and then redistribute the income and hopefully phase in AI and automation into the workplace. And those kind of things would be a really cool place to be as a data union, to be brokering those kind of labor deals. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
And what you pointed to, which I think is, massively important, is that a language model, an AI model, is only also as good as the data that it has, the data that it's trained on.
Yeah.
And because of that, that's why it's like all this AI became free, or that's how it was originally, because they wanted people to use it. They wanted so many people to, give them data, and because they realized, our AI will only be smart if we get as much data as possible. And now with this race of getting the best AI, it seems that it's even becoming more, intrusive, this data collection. Because they want, now they're like, even I think I was seeing Meta had this little, accept terms and conditions. Oh, by the way, we're going to be taking all your data to train our AI, So it's like
your Instagram photos now are going to be training. Like,
so now data is becoming even more valuable, more with this
even
AI.
More valuable.
Even more.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, totally. And I think it will continue to be like that. If you think, again, in terms of like language, here's a really interesting thing about like Duolingo. They were selling a ton of the data from Duolingo. Basically, they crafted the whole app to be a cool interface into understanding how people learn languages, and then that became very valuable data to training AI. So that's another example of like, okay, we see that as an interface of a language app, but actually they kind of built that thinking, how can we dress up a user-centric app to actually be a data collection exercise?
It's so crazy. Sorry. It's so crazy because with all these things, we never think that there's a business behind the business that happens to be the main business.
That happens to be the main business.